Welcome to Craving More, a CrossFit Crave podcast where we find motivation through obstacles, resistance, and everyday life.
This is episode 1 of a whole series of podcasts we will be doing with Dr. Libby Wilson. So if you like this episode, please be sure to look for more as we dive deeper into certain topics. One of our goals with our podcast is to give our listeners as much information as we can deliver on living a healthy lifestyle. We believe this goes beyond our time in the gym, in our case, our time participating in a CrossFit class. We feel the best way for us to personally achieve lifelong health and wellness is to incorporate coaching help in areas of fitness, nutrition, mobility, but most importantly, functional medicine.
You hit the nail on the head there, Matt. The magic pill simply doesn't exist. Functional medicine takes into consideration that all humans are different both genetically and biochemically. It is personalized healthcare that treats the individual, not just the disease with a prescription. Normal healing mechanisms of the body are used to naturally heal rather than using a pill to try to cover up the problem. Functional medicine is deeply science-based. Research shows that we are connected in a complicated web. Every process in your body is related, and understanding these relationships allows us to see the functioning of the body and allows the body to self-regulate. Your body has the ability to both heal and prevent nearly all the diseases we experience when aging. Though sometimes medication is needed in short term, the long-term goal is to replace those medications and live a healthier, happier lifestyle through proper diet, naturally based supplementation when needed, and proper exercise.
Exactly. Nice work, CJ. We are excited to introduce a series dedicated on understanding functional medicine and how we, the normal individual, can utilize MDs for more than just the common cold. So, with that, we are extremely excited to dive into this episode with Dr. Libby Wilson. All right. Well, welcome. Welcome back. Welcome back to you and I guess.
Yeah.
And
I guess,
welcome.
Thank you.
Dr. Libby Wilson.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no,
For
thanks
sure.
for coming.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Oh, it's exciting.
That's right. We have a doctor.
We have a doctor.
Officially.
There's so much knowledge on this side of the table. There's nothing over
That's
here.
right. That's right. So what we're going to do is shut our mics off and just
And
let
let me
you
talk
talk.
for an
Take
hour?
it away, Libby. You got it.
All right.
Thanks. Well, do you need some coffee? Or anything?
Yeah, I'm really good at getting people
Yeah,
coffee.
that's right. Awesome. Well, we're excited about the podcast, and we're excited about kind of the future of what we're going to do here. So we appreciate you being on. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of where you're from, maybe your background, and
Yeah.
where
Awesome.
you started. We talked about a little bit that earlier, so let's dive
Absolutely.
into that.
Yeah, so I'm a Mercer County girl. I grew up
Yes.
in
Boom.
St. Henry, Ohio, is
Oh,
where
yeah.
I'm from
There you go.
originally. And then in 8th grade, I moved to Salina and
Yeah.
graduated from Salina. So my family's still here. My mom and dad both live in Salina. My sister lives in Maria Stein area.
Okay.
So I'm up this way all the
Yeah.
time.
So just one sister?
Just one sister, yep.
Okay. Cool.
Who she lives in Maria Stein area. Her kids go to school there, and just won the
Just
state
state
title,
title,
yep,
state
that's
title
big.
again.
Yeah. There was a cool article on Maria Stein and that whole Marion, that whole football
Dynasty.
program. Yeah,
Oh,
that was
my.
really kind of cool, right?
It is pretty amazing. I mean,
awesome.
and yeah, this area, I just love it here. So, it's kind of interesting. My original intention was to be living in this area like that. My husband is from Springfield. We met in college, Wright State. And, he came back here with me multiple times for family things. And we really envisioned ourselves living here after we finished our schooling.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in residency, and he had gone to law school. He finished law school, and he got a job at the Clark County Prosecutor's Office, where he's from, and that's his same hometown. And when he took the job, I remember, or when he was offered the job, I remember
Right.
asking him, like, I'm afraid if you take that job, that maybe we'll end up living in Springfield forever.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, I could see that happening maybe. And that's exactly what happened.
Aw.
So the plan was for me to finish up. I had like a year and a half of residency left, and then we were going to move this way. And he took the job and loved it. And so we ended up in Springfield, which hasn't been all that bad. We really loved it there.
Yeah.
His family's from Springfield. His brothers live
that's
there. And so, I mean, it's
Yeah.
home for us
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And so we've not been unhappy there, but it wasn't
right.
the original plan.
Mhm.
So from this area, I went to college at Wright State. I went to medical school at Wright State. residency at Miami Valley Hospital for family practice. And after residency, I joined a group practice in Springfield with 3 other doctors, and I practiced conventional medicine for 15 years. And it's been great. I mean, a small little practice, and
Kind of like home, like
yeah.
it would be in,
Yeah.
Triestein or Salina or
Right.
that type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's been great. I've done that for a long time and have had a great base of patients and stuff. But while I loved it, I realized early on that we just weren't great at some things in medicine. So there was a lot that we were really good at. Like if you are sick, you come in, you've got bronchitis, we give you something for that, and that gets better. If you're really sick, like diabetes and heart disease and high blood pressure, I mean, yeah, that's what we specialize in. We specialize in doing that. But I remember even early on, like maybe just a couple of years into my career, thinking, we just don't have much to offer people who are well and are looking to optimize their health.
Right.
And I remember even early on, people would come in for a physical or something, and I would think, there's not much to really do. We talk for a few minutes and draw some blood and tell them it's fine.
Yeah,
and
hey,
that
you're
was,
good.
Yeah, that was sort of it,
Yeah.
And so that was sort of unsettling with me a little bit. But I was busy at this time. I had my kids right after I got out of residency, so I'm working full time and raising little ones.
Living the American dream.
Jeez.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. So just busy. So it's
Yeah.
good. I mean, it's kind of like in the back of my mind, like, oh, this part is not the best part of it all, but it was still great.
So it was like fixing things, not like the preventative anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
In fixing, is it short term or long term, and
Mhm.
is there really a track once we give that prescription? And
Which that
now
completely depends too, right? Like if you have
Yeah.
bronchitis,
Mhm.
it could be a fix.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But if the
Type 2
Right.
diabetes, you're
Ugh.
just
putting a Band-Aid on it, maybe.
Exactly. Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, we're just, and really like, conventional medicine, it's pretty fast paced, so I see a lot of patients every
Right.
day. So we're talking like 10, 15 minutes for an appointment. So
your
in
average
that,
appointment's 10 to 15 minutes?
yeah. Yeah.
Oof.
So in that amount of time, there's not a lot of time to dig deep and like really
Right.
change a lot when it comes to lifestyle stuff. And quite honestly, doctors aren't trained really well in some of that stuff either. We're trained in diagnosing, so recognizing patterns of diseases and diagnosing them, and then medical management of those diseases. And we're really good at doing that, but
Right.
not so good at maybe some of the lifestyle stuff too. So
Do you see, and we had this conversation with Maria Zenz when she was on, the difference between, I say difference, maybe that's the wrong word, but there's regulations that a doctor has to follow
Mhm.
from both insurance,
Mhm.
I'm sure practice liability, all of those things that kind of, not dictate, but kind of dictate. A patient comes in, I've got that 15-minute window,
right.
they're diagnosed, this is the diagnosis I've given, and here's step one of
Mhm.
what is approved and what I know that we should do
Mhm.
from both an insurance practice
Right.
and a doctor's liability. Is that accurate-ish?
Absolutely. Yes. So
Yeah.
there's multiple factors that are coming into play. For one is kind of a weird dynamic because it's the patient and I meeting, but the insurance company is going to pay for the visit. So we have to do what the insurance company needs to be reimbursed for that visit.
Right.
And so there's specific things that I need to document in my chart. And some of it is relevant, but some of it isn't stuff necessarily the patient cares about or I really care about either.
Yeah.
And it's meant to be that it's all, but it really isn't. And so I'm fulfilling that criteria on my computer. So
Yes, right.
patient's talking
Checking the
to me,
box.
and I'm filling in these little things that I need to fill in to get paid for the visit. And then there's also the medical legal kind of side of things that you have to kind of worry about too. So you need to be CYA, basically making sure that you're
Mhm.
not doing something that's going to lead, if you missed it leads to a
That's right.
lawsuit later on,
That's
right? And so there's all these factors. So in a 15-minute visit, I'm caring about what you, the patient, cares about,
Mhm.
what I, the doctor, care about in like up-leveling your health, what the insurance company is demanding that we do so we get paid for the visit, and let's be a little careful that I'm not missing anything that could set me up for a potential
Right.
lawsuit. In
It's
the
a lot to
15
cram into 15
It
minutes.
is a lot to cram into 15
Yeah.
minutes, absolutely. And then there's, in family practice, what the part I love about it maybe the most is the relationship. So I've had the same patients for 15 years, most of them. And so there's a little bit of like, how's Aunt Sally doing? And the
That's
kids,
right.
tell me about the kids, you know?
Yeah.
And so we spend maybe 5 minutes talking about that stuff. Now we've got 10 minutes to
Yep.
do the rest.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's just, you know,
Right.
it's not necessarily easy to do all that.
Yeah.
But you need
Exactly.
to have that personal side of it too, because I feel like a lot of people will come into the doctor's office and then like one of the only things you guys have to go off of is that the piece of paper that they had to fill out,
Mhm.
right? And then but there's a lot of like big words on those papers sometimes where people don't know
Yeah.
what it is. But if you have that personal side and they can be like hey, I've been like my blood pressure's been high, but they don't know that says hypertension on the thing or something,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So
absolutely.
that could be like a good thing, like I don't
right.
know, help you
Right. And if they-
understand the patient more, I guess, and then
yeah.
you can fix it a little
which
bit.
which I love that part about like a relationship building, and once they get to know you and you know, and then they become comfortable and you can talk about those things more too. But I guess maybe my most dissatisfying part of medicine has been I just don't feel like you can do much under all those constraints sometimes, you know, and it's just really hard to leave there feeling like I did something
Right.
really good for them. And sometimes you do, you know, but it's just hard to cram that all in for sure.
Mhm.
So, but that's what I've done for all these years. And what's interesting is, you know, it's kind of like you transform and then you look back and you think, how did this all happen? Like, how did I get to where I'm at right now? And so I've been doing a lot of this self-reflective kind of stuff over the last couple of years. But CrossFit it was really transformative for me in the way I approached my practice and the way I approached medicine. And I think that was probably the one factor that kind of flipped it for me, is when I found CrossFit. And so
How did you?
Yeah. How was that?
That's interesting. How did you?
Yeah.
Right.
How did you find
How did it? How did it make you
Exactly.
change too?
I love talking to people about how they found CrossFit because it is so interesting to me. I was asking some of your members here today, like, how did you get in the door the first time? Because it's really not an intimidating place to come.
No, but it's the scariest thing to do.
It is.
To walk in the door the first time.
Absolutely
Yeah.
is. So I love when I talk to people like, how did you get in the door the first time?
Right.
And for me, well, I was a runner. So I was a runner and that's what I was doing. And I had a friend who did CrossFit. And so she was talking about it some. And I kept mentioning it to my husband. I was like, that sounds kind of interesting. But I really wasn't serious about it. I was really like,
Right. At a distance.
at a very much distance.
That's cool for you.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, that's really interesting that she's doing that, you
Yeah.
know. So I had thrown it out there a couple of times. So a few years ago, Mother's Day comes around and he gets me a gift certificate for CrossFit for 1 month.
Oh, cool.
And I was
Now,
like,
was he a CrossFitter?
no.
No.
He just had no idea what to get me. And he thought, I'll just get her CrossFit.
She
gift
talked
certificate.
about
Yeah.
this once. I'm
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I really think he didn't know what else to do. And I remember being like kind of annoyed. I was like, I really didn't want to go to. I mean, I think I told him that. I'm like, I really did not.
Yeah.
Wasn't serious about doing that. I was
Yeah.
just throwing that out there as a maybe one day. But I'm
Stuck
kind of one of
now.
those people that like, oh, he spent the money. I'm not going to waste it. So I'm just going to go ahead and go. So I did. And I did like a little on-ramp thing. And I thought I'll do it for a month and then I'll stop. Because at this time I was really into marathoning and I was really into like logging miles,
Yep.
you know, so I loved the like,
Man, I got 14 miles in today.
exactly. How many did I get this week? How many did I
That's
get this month?
Yeah.
You know, and I was really like into tracking those numbers. So I thought this CrossFit was kind of fun. I really kind of dug it.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I'll go to CrossFit maybe twice a week and then I'll run like 4 days a week and then I can kind of do that. But then I got looking at the WODs and I thought, oh, I want to go to that one.
that
I want to go
looks
to this
fun.
one.
Oh, that
I want to
looks
go to that
fun.
one. You know, I just wanted to go to all of them. And so then I kind of switched to going to CrossFit a lot more. But then it was bugging me to see those miles drop too. So I kept trying to I remember one day I think I ran to CrossFit and then I did a WOD and then I ran home, you know. So I'm probably like,
oh, nice.
I don't know, like maybe 4 miles there, 4 miles back, you know. And
Jeez.
but what I didn't realize is I was killing my body. I mean, it was too much. And I ended up with a stress fracture of my femoral neck of my hip from doing it all. And that was so hard because I couldn't do anything for a while.
Right.
And so
What do you do with that?
rest, and more rest.
That's terrible.
It took
I've
about-
never heard of that.
Yeah, and it was just a pure, I mean, it was just a little crack in the bone, but it was just pure overuse. And it was, looking back, it was so stupid on my part, really. Like I saw the warning signs, like it kind of hurt and it was not feeling so good, but the plan said, you know,
keep moving.
The plans, I had to mark these things off the plan. It said, you know, tomorrow's a 10-mile run and I'm going to do it so I can do it, mark it off. So looking back, it was really pretty preventable had I been smarter about it. But that led to about 5 months of not being able to CrossFit, not being able to run. And, you know, when this is your life, this is your friends, this is your,
it's your escape.
It's
like
everything. So that was a really, really rough time. But yeah, so my husband got me the gift certificate. I started into CrossFit. And then when I healed, that's when I became like, I was all in with CrossFit. And that's when I decided, okay, running is not going to be my, like one or the other, right? You know, I mean, you can still run some and run to stay fit, but you can't aggressively marathon train and
aggressively
CrossFit. I mean, you know, it's just not it's not good on your body.
It's a good supplement. Like if you're running, it's a good supplement thing.
So now I will, like, I think a couple of weeks ago, it was the weekend and it was kind of a nice day. So I went for like a 3-mile run, you know, I mean, instead of going to CrossFit on the weekend.
You're still able to do 3-mile runs.
Yeah.
And be very functional at it.
Yeah. And I quite honestly, like even like a 5-mile run, I can do pretty good just from CrossFitting. But much beyond that, I'd probably have to train more for it. But that's okay. I'm perfectly happy with that. But when I walked into the CrossFit gym, I started talking to my friends and stuff at CrossFit and about nutrition and I realized, my gosh, these people know a ton about nutrition and about health. And they know a lot more about this than I do. And, you know, people would ask me questions once in a while. They're like, oh, yeah, she comes from, she's a doctor. Like, let me ask her what to eat. And I'm like, I have no idea. Don't ask me. Like,
so you found it after you were a doctor already?
Yeah. Yes. I was already, I'd been practicing for, a while already. Nice. And I look back on my medical training, we had hardly any nutrition training. I mean, maybe.
Which is crazy because that's like if you want to be healthy, nutrition is the base, you know? Like that's the foundation.
Absolutely. You know, and I when patients would ask me about nutrition stuff too, I would kind of, you know, I tell them something real basic and change the subject because I didn't really know the answers to those questions. Yeah. But I was learning all of this from my fellow CrossFit athletes. And I mean, I was soaking it all up and loved it. And so then I took the L1 course just because I really had no plans of training because my life's pretty busy. I don't really have the time for that. But I just wanted to learn more about it. Like I just found it so fascinating. And I learned more in that L1 class about nutrition than I did in med school. About nutrition, that is not a joke. I mean, that's the honest truth. And and I realized that like being a doctor is what I did for a job, but I really had a passion for being an athlete, and that's what I loved to do. And it felt like those two they felt two separate things, but they felt like they didn't necessarily have to be two separate things. Right. And so after I had gone to that L1 class, I thought, what can I learn now? And I was listening to podcasts all the time, like CrossFit podcasts, nutrition podcasts and stuff. And I stumbled upon functional medicine and I thought, this is so perfect for me. You know, this is a way to kind of marry my love for fitness and my passion with what I do for a job. And it was like, it's like once you find what you love, like I was just all
like,
in.
Let's go.
Exactly. Let's go. Exactly.
When did you take your L1?
That was maybe like a year and a half ago or so. Yeah.
Did they have the doctor L1? Or they just
like that MDL1?
I did not hear about the MDL1 until shortly after I took it, which I would have totally done that.
Yeah. So
you can still, right? It's free.
You can take it. The MDL1 is free for MDs.
For MDs.
Really? Yeah. I need to do this.
I think the cost is getting yourself to California because it's out there.
Yeah.
It is, and we'll dive. I take notes here, so we'll dive into that because that's something I really want to.
We just taught a doctor something.
Yeah,
yes,
I just want to throw that out there.
See, we don't know everything.
Yeah, well, who would have thought? That's incredible.
That's right. So I want to dive into that.
That
thought process of where Coach Glassman is taking CrossFit.
Yeah.
So functional fitness versus functional medicine.
Absolutely.
Right? So you continue.
Absolutely.
So you took your L1.
Yeah.
You come back and you're Doing the doctor thing still.
Doing the doctor thing still. And, one of the other things that was sort of transformative in my journey a little bit was my daughter. She's 13 now. I've got two girls. They're 13 and 10. The 13-year-old, so she was like, this is maybe, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. She was having some belly aches, and I tried to give her some stuff that I would give any patient that would come to my office with belly aches. It seemed like an irritable bowel kind of thing. So I'm like, try this, and it didn't really work. And it would kind of come and go. So we ignored it for a while. And then I finally took her into the office to see one of my partners, who's like, I wasn't her actual doctor. She has an actual doctor at my office, and I brought her in for a visit because, as a parent, it's a little hard to be non-biased.
Yeah.
And my partner looked her over and, said, I really kind of think what you think. It probably is irritable bowel. Let's try a different medicine for it. So we tried a different medicine for it, and that didn't really work either. And then we ignored it for a little while. And I remember at this time, so she's probably like 10 or something. She went on a little retreat with our church, like a little church group up to the Great Wolf Lodge. And she got a bellyache while she was there. And it was like,
devastating.
Devastating for a little kid. I mean, it was just
right.
and I remember her coming home and saying, like, I will never go anywhere without you ever again. Like, what if these bellyache happen again? Yeah. And I remember her saying, like, in 8th grade when they go to Washington, D.C., like, just telling you right now, I'm not going because what if I get a bellyache, Yeah. And I realized this is really
that's
affecting her life. I'm kind of blowing this off, and it's really a big deal. So at that point, I did a referral, and I took her down to Cincinnati Children's pediatric gastroenterologist. I said, what am I missing here? She's got these belly aches. And so they did a full workup. I mean, the doctor was great. I think he spent like an hour with us. I mean, we did a bunch of blood work, stool testing. He didn't scope her, but pretty much everything else. And he said, you know what? She's fine. There is like nothing going on here. She's 100% fine. He's like, maybe it's like stress, maybe some counseling, something like that.
Sure.
And I'm like,
that's weird.
She's like maybe like a preteen at this point.
That's where their mindset's.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah. And I'm just like, I know stressed out little kids, and like, not to say that my daughter doesn't have some stress, and not that anybody could benefit from counseling, I think, really, but she was not the kind of kid. I wasn't buying it. I was like, this is not what's going on with her. So around that time, we take continuing education every year. Doctors have to take so many hours of continuing education. So I signed up for a functional medicine gastroenterology course through the Cleveland Clinic. And I took this, it was like a 3-day class. And it was like day 1, I figured out, I think I know what she's got,
No kidding. That's crazy.
Based on her symptoms and stuff. And so sure enough, I did a test on her, and I figured out right away, like, what her problem was. It wasn't irritable bowel syndrome. It was something called SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So basically, you're supposed to have a bunch of bacteria living in your large intestine, but your small intestine is supposed to be pretty bacteria free. And based on multiple factors, lots of times it's your diet that you're eating, the bacteria can kind of migrate up the small intestine. So it's digesting food quicker than it's supposed to, leads to a lot of bloating, and it can lead to crampy abdominal pain and stuff like that. And so I tested her. I treated her naturally with some dietary changes and some supplements, and gone. I mean, it was gone, So this was something I couldn't figure out from all I 11 years of college. I didn't know what to do.
Well, how do you
with
even test for that? What do you?
It's a breath test, actually.
See, who does that when you have stomach pains? Who's like, let me test your breath.
I know. It was crazy. She had to eat this like kind of modified diet the day before. And then she had to wake up in the morning, and she had to drink this like sugar load. And then she had to blow into like this vial and collect her breath every like 20 minutes for 2 hours, I think. Wow. And then you send it off to the lab, and they tested the level of the gases that were produced in her breath. And it's supposed to be produced later on, but if it's produced earlier, then you know that the bacteria are higher up in the gut, basically.
The
timing. Yep.
That's incredible.
Exactly. So it was so fascinating. So I thought, oh my gosh, like, this is what she's got. I didn't know, my partner didn't know, this really smart gastroenterologist didn't know. Right. And the cool part is I just picked her up Friday night from her DC trip that she just went on for the 8th grade.
Yes, life back.
She had a blast. She said, I would have stayed a whole other week if I could have. It was so fun because, that wasn't even a worry for her because we knew what it was and we fixed it. And so, and not just like, oh, take this pill for the rest of your life and it's going to be fixed. Like, we fixed it. She doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So that was really eye-opening for me. I thought, okay, you know, this is cool. We fixed this.
Right.
And then I started thinking, like, what else can I fix? You know, instead of putting Band-Aids on things, what else can I fix?
Right.
And so, you know, I started that was the first course I took in functional medicine. But then I was all in, you know,
All
so
hooked.
all in. So I'm like, what else can I take?
Especially
What
because
else
you
can I
got good
learn?
results on your first one. You're like,
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly. Absolutely. So, so that kind of started it. And then I just, anything I could learn, functional medicine. I mean, course after course after course. I signed up for a mentorship program and all the classes that the Cleveland Clinic had to offer, one after another, and just it became my hobby, you know.
Right.
And I've always got some sort of a goal I'm working on, you
Yeah,
know.
that's
And
cool.
this became my new goal. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to learn everything I can about this functional medicine, and I started looking at myself at that point, like thinking, okay, I'm a healthy person. I'm mid-40s. I'm by all means healthy. I'd see one of my partners every year or two and have some fasting labs done. Cholesterol, thyroid, blood sugar, all great, you know, healthy person by all means. But I had to be honest, you know, I guess I felt like what I thought a mid-40-year-old person is supposed to feel like.
Right.
But that was really waking up in the morning, heading off to work, doing the grind, you know, putting on a smile.
American dream.
Yeah, you know,
that's right.
getting the kids off to school, going to work, patient after patient after patient after patient, running home, grabbing the kids, doing what I needed to do with them, and then just kind of sitting there. I mean, just, I don't know. I just didn't feel full of energy. I didn't feel really passionate about anything. And if someone would have asked me, like, what's the most important thing in your life? I would say, oh my gosh, like my husband and my kids and, you know, Jesus. I mean, that's what I'm passionate about. But if you were like a fly on the wall in my house, I don't know that you would think that was my priority.
Yeah.
Because
the fly on the wall says it all.
I know. I mean, and it was like, you know, I would all day at work, I'm like, you know, on my A game, you know, like hey, how are you? And I'm happy and life is good. And then I'd come home and it's like, what do you want? Leave me alone.
Yeah, I'm exhausted.
Exactly.
Mentally checked out.
Yeah.
Physically done.
Exactly. Just scrolling the Facebook news feed and just,
Yeah.
and I distinctly remember this particular day a couple of years ago. I'm like sitting on the couch, you know, it's probably 6 o'clock at night or something. And my daughter said, "Hey, Mom, can you boil me some water and make me some ramen noodles?" And I said, "Really? How about some peanut butter crackers?" You know, instead, I mean, this is a true story. I think my husband was sitting there too, and he was like, "Oh yeah, like boiling water."
Boiling water sounds terrible.
Like I can't do that.
I mean, I am embarrassed to admit it, but this is a true story.
Yeah.
And we kind of got laughing. We're like, seriously, like we can't boil
Like,
water.
wait.
I mean, like we after we said it, we realized how absurd it was. But it was like kind of our honest inkling. Like we did not really want to get up and boil the water. And I thought, this is not what life is supposed
That's
to be
not
like.
okay.
This is not okay. Like this is not the parent I want to be. This is not the life I want to be. This is not the person I really want to be. And what I think was happening was, I mean, I was just, I don't know, I was burning myself out with all that I had to do and just not leaving anything left for what I wanted to do.
Right.
That's right.
And, you know, it became this crossroads and I thought, okay, like keep on down this path. You know, I mean, I've got a very stable, lucrative career going on. I mean, I can just do this for another 20 years and we can retire to Florida.
Try to live life when
That's
I'm
right.
retired.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Live life when I'm retired. Yeah, absolutely. Or I can do something different, you know? And so at that point, I started like testing myself. I thought, okay, like I'm a healthy person, but maybe I'm not as healthy as I could be, right? So I started, you know, as part of this mentorship program that I was taking with some other doctors from all over the world learning functional medicine. It was really cool. We were all challenged to test ourselves. So I started testing myself and I found out like, yeah, conventional medicine standards, I'm super healthy, but from functional medicine standards, there's a lot that I can be working on. And I spent about a year just transforming my health.
Yourself.
Yeah, Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I went from feeling what I thought was fine to feeling so much better. And not just from a medical standpoint, but just, I mean, a personal growth standpoint too. And it's been pretty darn cool. And in that process, it transformed me. I mean, not just as a person, but I think it's transformed me as a mom, as a wife, as a doctor, and as a, like, how I want to live the rest of my life, basically.
Right. Start
So
living while you're working still.
exactly. I'm not going to
Yeah.
wait until I'm
Yep.
65 and retired. I found something I love and hate Facebook. I mean, like, it can really suck you in, right? But you can find some pretty good things on there sometimes too. But I saw a little quote that said, I want to build a life that I don't need to have a vacation from,
Yeah.
and that's what I decided I wanted to do. Like, I don't want to just wait for
Exactly. Yeah.
right. I mean, I want to do something that I'm excited about and passionate about. And functional medicine, I think, is, it allows me to take what I'm passionate about, which is health and fitness, and then marry that with medicine, which is what I'm trained in. And I look at people, I mean, and I remember I was working with a mentor, kind of helping me get my business set up and stuff. And she said, who do you want to serve? Like, who are your people?
Yeah.
And immediately, I mean, I have to think about it very long. I'm like, athletes, that's who I want to serve. Like, that's who I love. And no one else is serving them from the medical standpoint. I mean, like, no one has anything
Well,
to
because they're so
offer.
healthy
Yeah, they are.
from
Yeah.
conventional medicine standpoint.
You're
right?
absolutely right. Yeah. So if you go see a doctor, a conventional medicine doctor, like, they're going to tell you, yeah, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, you're better off. I mean, it's good that you're not sick,
Right.
but don't you think there's something we could offer
But you
them
could be
too?
better, especially if you're an athlete. You're like, you want that extra
Yeah.
edge too, right? Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Let's not wait until you're sick. Can we do something proactively to make sure that we stay healthy?
right. Or get healthier.
Exactly. Or get
Right.
healthier.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that goes back to some of the limitations I think that are placed on doctors from an insurance perspective. And insurance is great. They're there for a reason.
Absolutely.
And I think that will change in the future. I've got that as a note I want to talk about. But like, for example, we've had this conversation with my shoulder, my last shoulder surgery 5 years ago. I came back, I was released, ready to go, just working out, and I just didn't have the drive. Like everything was just gone for me. Like I get done with the workout and be wiped out. I'd go home, be wiped out. Like, I had no energy. Went to the doctor. They're like, oh, hey, let's, check everything. So they did all of my blood work. Like, everything is excellent. I don't drink, I don't smoke. You work out, you eat well. You're good, Matt. Keep it up. I'm like, I just don't feel right. And they're like, well, your testosterone's a little low. Like, it's in the 160 range, 155, but that's okay. We're really not going to do anything with that. That will come back. And then out the door I went, out in the 10-minute visit.
Right. Yeah.
And it took another 6 months for me to finally be like, okay, I'm starting to feel a little better. I got a little energy. But I think they were held to a guideline that says, well, because it's not at this level, and
it's
he's
not
got
low enough
nothing
to
else
treat yet or
going
anything.
on
Right.
in his life. Like, we can't really treat it.
Right. And you know what? Like, that normal level is the normal level for all men.
Yeah.
So, like, puberty to, like, death.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And so,
Yeah.
I mean, you're not the same. You shouldn't be compared to the same as, like, an 85-year-old man,
Right.
So there's, like, normal, and then there's normal conventional medicine labs, and there's normal functional medicine standards, and then there's, like, ideal, and I don't want to be, like, on a bell-shaped curve, putting me against standard Americans. I don't want to be, like, average.
Yeah.
Right. Is
Necessarily.
that what all levels are for like everything? Is that
Yeah.
So
Generally,
I don't know,
yeah.
right?
It's not really age
it's not
matched. It's
yeah,
like,
it's like, hey, this is the average American. Hey, you're doing great, or
Yeah.
you're better than the average American. I'm like,
Right.
well, I want to be a lot better than the average American. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
but that's another thing with the athletes that they won't treat because they are so much better than the average American. It's like,
right.
but
Absolutely. There was a concept I learned in CrossFit at the L1, and it was called the sickness wellness continuum. And it was like, do you remember this
We
graph?
talk about that
I
all the
love
time.
this thing. Yeah. So medicine, if you're in that wellness, which is like the middle of the curve, like they're like, I mean, when I find patients in that wellness, I'm like, at my conventional medicine job, I am so thrilled. I'm like, you are doing so great, because I have so many in the sickness category. And, but I want to move from wellness to fitness. And fitness is a hedge of protection against sickness, right? Because you have to worsen to wellness before you can worsen to sickness, right?
That's right. Yep.
So, so we've got nothing in conventional medicine at all to offer those people. I mean, we high five them, and like you, high five out the door, and you're like, okay, well, I'm not
I don't feel good about
feel
this.
good, and we're like, just keep chugging along, you'll get there. You know?
But that's a good point though too, with wait till retirement.
Exactly.
But with like how you said, like the people you see are usually on the sickness curve. So then someone comes in that is in the wellness, that you're just like, hey, you're doing great. But it's just compared to the 20 other patients that they saw today that,
Exactly.
So you could get thrown off, like your perspective there could get thrown off too, I feel like.
Absolutely. Yeah, and those patients are almost like my catch-up patients. It's like, okay, like, I've had a busy day here with all these visits,
check, good.
You're doing great. Like, I'm gonna catch up some time here and move on to the next person that's got
10 minutes back.
exactly.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Good to go.
Absolutely.
We had a conversation with one of our athletes. She's just recently lost 60 pounds. She feels great. And we were talking about she had a doctor visit today. She's going to try to get off her CPAP machine.
Awesome.
So, and she's super excited about that.
Yeah.
And now her comments were, now if I could just get off the type 2 diabetes medication. And I kind of laughed and I said, well, that's what kind of Dr. Wilson is going to talk about today. How do we take patients that are in that diseased area, but it's absolutely preventable or fixable with diet, nutrition, proper supplementation.
Absolutely.
Outside of throwing, a medication, type 2 diabetes.
Yes.
Like, that's curable, folks.
Oh, it is.
And we've got to cure.
We do.
Right?
And it's called like lifestyle,
That's right.
and so type 2 diabetes is very curable with weight loss and lifestyle.
Yep.
And and I really think, I learned this from like a Ben Bergeron podcast, and he's got a poster we've got in the gym I go to, about the 5 modifiable lifestyle factors. And that's where health is at, right there, and I do a lot of supplementation in my functional medicine practice, but that's all meant to be temporary to kind of get you feeling better, because the key to health is it's diet, it's exercise, it's sleep. Sleep is so important. It's your relationship qualities and stress management. And if we can dial all those 5 things in, you can cure and prevent a lot of chronic disease. A lot. Most of it. And
which is incredible, because those are modifiable. Like, you control all of those things.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But,
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have the power within you to control it. And I think so many people think, well, my parents have this, and I'm genetically predisposed to this. There's nothing I can do about it. There's so much you can do. You're right. We all are dealt a different hand of cards to start with. And that's true. But what we've learned is you have this gene from your mom and dad, but the whole entire gene isn't expressed. Okay, it's called epigenetics. So only part of the gene is expressed, and your lifestyle helps to modify what part of the gene is expressed. So I'm not saying it's all in your control, because it really isn't. There's multiple different factors, but a lot of it is. Yeah. And I think so many people just feel like,
would cholesterol be a part of that? Like high cholesterol? And that's a situation that I came out of. I had cholesterol. I was on cholesterol medication.
Yes.
Hated taking it.
Yep.
Didn't like, and I went back to my nurse practitioner, who I love. She's absolutely phenomenal. I'm like, listen, I want to get off that. Listen, your grandparents had it, which they do. My dad, high cholesterol, which he has.
Yes.
He's like, Matt, it's kind of in your genetics. It's hereditary. You've got high cholesterol. I'm like, give me 3 months.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, we'll give you 3 months.
Yeah.
You fix your diet, come back and we'll retest. I came back, retested. She's like, okay, you're a 1%er of the people that we talk to that can fix it on their own.
Absolutely.
Good job. See you later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. But would that be a part of that genome that you can affect in a positive way?
Absolutely. Did you take the statin for a while?
Yeah.
You did take it for a while? Yeah. So I was just listening to a podcast on my way up here this morning, and it was talking about how, statins, like that's another thing. Like right now, like the insurance companies want me to have all my patients on statins. You know, I get these letters from them, like they're not on a statin, they should be on a statin. And I do have some patients on statins for sure, because some just need it and they're not going to do anything differently. But statins have so many side effects.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
they literally kill your mitochondria, which are your energy producers of your cell, and people don't feel good on them. I mean, their muscles ache, they're tired. I mean, and it's just
Yeah, joints, everything. That's exactly what I was going through.
absolutely.
I'm like, I can't live like this.
I know.
Like, no.
And they do. I mean, there are studies that prove that they help to decrease your risk of heart attack and stroke. So, I mean, there is some good stuff about statins, but you are
But at what cost?
At what cost? Exactly. But you know what? A lot of people aren't sometimes willing to make the changes that you made.
Right.
Well,
And
it's hard.
it is hard. It is
Yeah.
hard. But I'll tell you, I struggle with diet too. I mean, I have my moments, and holiday season is pretty hard time, really. Like, if you saw what I ate yesterday, you'd be like, what? It's pretty bad, But nothing tastes as good as feeling great
Yeah.
Right.
feels,
I
in the
agree.
long
And even
term.
that, we just had last week with our podcast with Nick, and if you have everything on point like throughout the year, you can splurge a little bit on the holidays.
Absolutely,
Like,
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Ab-
So
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's like, and I used to be this all or none approach kind of thing. Like I was telling, oh my gosh, we had my niece and nephew spend the night on Saturday night. And so my kids were there all playing and everything. So I went and got them donuts yesterday morning. So that was kind of the,
For sure.
yeah, we don't do that very often, but the kids loved it. And then I had to, of course, have some too. But I remember this day. This was like 5 years ago. And I was asking my nephew Briggs if he remembered this, and he didn't, thank goodness. But I did this like 30-day no sugar thing. And for 30 days.
you made it 30 days?
I did make it 30 days.
Cool.
Yeah.
I go like 3 days and like I'm weak.
Yeah. But you know what? Like, I've learned now moderation is the key, because for 30 days I thought about donuts like every day.
Yeah.
I mean, I really did. And I remember running one day with one of my girlfriends, and I'm like, I'm thinking about what donut I'm going to eat on day 31. And I thought about donuts so much that I decided I was going to eat 4 donuts when the 30 days was over.
Oh, yeah,
because I couldn't decide which one I wanted.
After you just like detoxed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that had to be a
Wouldn't it have been a
shock.
smarter idea to like have a little eat a half of a donut like day 5 and just quit thinking about it instead of obsessing about it for 30 days, which is what I would do now. Now I would just be like, all right, like I'm going to have a little treat, and then tomorrow I'm going to, or like I had a little half of a donut for breakfast, but I'm going to have a really healthy lunch and a really healthy dinner, and then tomorrow's going to be a good day. Like that's how I would approach nutrition now.
Right.
But then I was very like, I was regimented. I was like, oh, I'm going to not do it for 30 days. And then so day 31, it was the last day of school. And so we had my niece and nephew over and my kids, and I was off that day. So I was taking care of all of them. And I went and got donuts for them and myself.
Sure. Yeah, that's right. And the 4 that I
And
want.
and I picked out, and I remember I asked everybody what they wanted. Like, okay, I'm going to get you your donuts, and I'm going to get me mine.
Yeah.
So I like spaced them out throughout the day. I was going to eat them throughout. Like, so I had saved one. I took them to the park in the afternoon. I came back, and my daughter, the older one, was getting a movie ready for the kids in the basement, and she's making popcorn. Well, Briggs didn't want popcorn, so she gave him my donut.
Yeah. Oh, what are you
Uh-oh.
I went downstairs, I helped him get the movie, and I come back up, and he's eating the donut, and I'm like, that's mine.
Right.
About to rip this
And
kid's
he's
face
like
off.
eating it, and I'm like, I'm serious.
Like, that's mine. Like, put it down right now.
I took it and I like cut it in half, and I gave him the half he'd already like pretty
That's
much
right.
eaten.
Yeah.
And I felt so terrible, but I was like that's how obsessed I was about it.
Yeah, and that's all emotion. Emotionally
It
eating
is.
versus
Oh
emotionally.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. I asked him yesterday, do you remember that? And he's like, no. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. That was not
Just
what
forget I brought it up right now, and then
That's
we're good.
that was not one of my
Exactly.
prouder moments. So now I think it's all about moderation, I mean,
Mhm.
I don't like do these challenges for 30 days, but I
Mhm.
just most days try to eat well. And then around the holidays, one of the things I try to do is, okay, just because we're going to my mom's for dinner tonight doesn't mean I have to eat terribly for breakfast and terribly for lunch, but
Yeah.
maybe eat a really healthy thing and then, indulge and
Or
live a
have
little
one
bit.
bad meal. Just not
Exactly.
Right.
You have to balance that living. I mean, I've been that really like, bring your own food and, can't eat that. I mean, that's just really isolating and not any fun either.
Right.
So I'm trying to find that
Plus,
balance.
the more you do that stuff, the more you don't want to eat bad 2 meals because you're just like you feel bad.
Right.
So you can still splurge, but splurging doesn't get as fun when
Like,
if you're eating
when you
healthy all the time.
Yeah, and you just don't feel good.
Mhm.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I got your email late last week. I think
Yes.
it was late last
Yes.
week. And so I'm reading through it and great suggestions, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And I think that's probably as you go into your functional medicine practice,
Mhm.
I talk about you jumping into that in January.
Yes,
That's probably some of the stuff that you're going to continuously do. Right?
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it was good. I read through it, I'm like, this is exactly what I need to
Yeah,
see.
it was kind of common sense stuff,
Yeah.
but it's like just reminders, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, so
Yeah.
I made that was my first newsletter. So I'm going to put out a newsletter I think every couple of weeks or so, and just with some little tips and some just health ideas. But,
That's cool.
but
How
yeah,
does one get on that newsletter?
yes, through my website, yes,
Mhm.
or
Yes.
just give me your email address and I'll put you on.
Perfect,
So
thanks.
yeah,
Go to her
absolutely,
website.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
little plug there.
absolutely.
So I want to talk about, and I think this is a good transition. I want to talk about kind of you're leaving your standard practice,
Mhm.
going into functional medicine, what that looks like,
Yeah.
and what you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
I think a good segue there is if you think about what Coach Glassman, Greg Glassman, the founder of CrossFit,
Mhm.
so he started this 2001, let's say, when it actually went online.com, right?
Mhm.
So a long time ago. In today's standard, that was a long time ago.
Right.
But if you think about how long it's taken, really it took, let's say, from 2001 to really 2004 or 5,
Mhm.
so boxes started popping up across the United States,
Mhm.
and now we're global, 16,000 locations and growing, right? But it's taken a while for his mindset and that philosophy of functional, group setting, functional fitness to take off,
Mhm.
right? And it's truly functional. It's, how do I get off the couch and stand?
Mhm.
That's the functional part of it. And I think medication and medicine, what you're doing is probably where Coach was at in 2001. Got
Mhm.
this great idea. Yeah, I want to share it, and here's the key to success. But from an insurance and a doctor practices, we're not there yet.
Mhm.
But individuals like yourself in the functional medicine mindset is, okay, I need to start because this is, I think, the future of where it's going to go. And that's why Coach Glassman is putting, in my opinion, that's why he's putting so much focus into insurance companies, into the MDL1, into taking all the money, that people are upset, oh, the games are changing. Yeah, because we need to focus on the 99.9% of the world's population
Right.
that will never go to the games but need functional fitness and now functional medication,
Absolutely.
right? And that could come in nutrition, healthy supplements, and riding a bike for 45 minutes because that's all you can take today. So it's taken from 2001 to now, and it'll progress. And I think his vision of working with insurance companies and doctors will slowly start to change what you're going to do from January.
Right.
Right?
Like it's
Which is awesome.
Yeah. Like I think it's going to be it's a process, right?
That's right.
And I think it's what medicine needs. I mean, I've picked my small little niche that I want to work on, but this is really the kind of medicine that everyone needs, really. And the functional medicine approach can heal so much chronic disease, and it's just it makes so much sense, and so it's needed for the masses, and I hope that insurance companies will eventually come around and support that kind of a model. And they're looking at some ideas in some of the functional medicine people that are kind of behind the scenes, like group visits, kind of an idea, trying to bring something that's costly to a bunch of people, because it's really for everyone, and so the model of healthcare has got to change. It's not, we spend so much money in this country on our healthcare system, and we're not doing that great of a job. I mean,
Right, we're a very unhealthy country.
It really is. For the amount of money that we're spending, we should have like some really healthy population.
Every American should be an Olympian.
Yeah, for them,
Should
right?
be,
Right.
Obesity should be knocked out.
Not
right?
even a
Type
thing.
2 diabetes should be knocked out.
Absolutely.
Chronic disease should be on the decline, not the rise like it is now.
Absolutely. And what I love about functional medicine is it kind of looks at the root cause of what's causing the problem. So I was thinking about this, like if one of you guys would come to my office now, my conventional medicine office, and if you had 3 complaints, I would give you 3 solutions. So I was thinking, like, say your shoulder hurts, right?
Yep.
And say you've got some heartburn, and then say you're like got this rash on your arm. I'd be like, oh, okay, great. Well, let's take some non-steroidal anti-inflammatories for your shoulder, like decrease the inflammation.
Yep.
Let's give you some steroid cream for your rash. That should heal that all up. And then, like, here's a proton pump inhibitor for your stomach. That'll decrease your stomach acid. I mean, that would be like, I do that all the time,
Yeah.
But what I would do in functional medicine, I would be like, okay, well, let's see what's going on in your body overall that's leading to that manifestation of those symptoms, and let's fix that so that the symptoms go away. And so it's a completely different approach. And that's what's been hard the last couple of years is, like my day job, that's what I'm still kind of doing, but I'm not really believing in it so much anymore. But, as I told you at the beginning, like there's so much to fit into that 15-minute visit.
That's right.
So now if I try to put that into it too.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I just can't even do it. I mean, I can barely do what I have to do in the 15 minutes, let alone try to get to the root cause of the illness and figure out what's going on too. Like there's just no way I could make that all happen.
So how long will they be now? Like
hour-long visits.
Hour-long?
Yeah, hour-long visits.
That's a little bit longer than 15 minutes.
It is. It is. And I'm going from taking care of a large patient population to a very small patient population. So I have 2,500 patients in my current practice that I'm leaving. I've got 6 days left. It's been a really emotional month, because my patients, I really as much as I am dissatisfied with the insurance-based model and some of conventional medicine, it's the patients that I really do
the people
love.
are still people.
Oh, they're still people. And they've been, just so loyal to me, and they've been with me for so long. So each visit is like, goodbye, hugs, and I'll never see you again. And, and it's hopeful. I say, I hope I'll see you around. But, so it's been a really kind of emotional month with that. But, where was I going with this? But anyways, so 2,500 patients. And then I plan to have 45 to 50 patients in my new practice, and which will allow me to, really invest in them and really be there for them and support them on getting healthy. And I was telling someone recently that in my conventional medicine practice, when you're in my office, I'm all in and focused on you for that 15-minute appointment. The second that appointment's over, you are out of my mind, and I'm on to the next person.
We get to focus on the next, right?
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, and then at the end of the day, I don't remember any. And I wrote it down, thankfully.
Yeah, if someone has questions, you got to go look where you wrote it.
Exactly. Yeah. And but with a small number of patients, those patients are on my mind. I was just this morning before I drove up here, I was looking through, I'm like, I haven't heard from these 5 or 6 people in a week or two. So I'm going to touch base with them today just to make sure they're doing okay and everything's fine, because they're on my mind with that small number of patients that can be that way, which I'm really excited about.
So how are you getting patients? Are some transitioning over? Or good question. So I made a website. So I've got a website out there, and some people find me that way.
What's the name of your website?
It's my practice is called Northside Functional Medicine. So the website's www.northsidefunctionalmedicine.com. And some people have just, I don't know that I was doing this and maybe found it. I put it on my Facebook page, and my husband put it on his Facebook page. I am listed on the Cleveland Clinic's website. So they have a Find a Doc. Cleveland Clinic is huge with functional medicine. So they have Find a Doc. And if you put in your zip code, they'll come up with how many
near you.
In your and it'll pop up on that way on there. So I've gotten some people have found me that way. And then some of my current patients that are in my conventional medicine practice have come on over. And kind of word of mouth is how I've gotten the initial people. But my plan for getting future patients, and this is going to be different than my conventional medicine practice in every potential way, really. But one of them is the patients that I have in my conventional practice, I have them forever because they're not getting better.
That's right.
So they come in every 3 months, and I see them. And so once I built my patient panel, I had it. There was no need to go find new patients. Right. Well, my plan with this is to get them better so they don't need me anymore. And so I walk them through a 9-month program, and then, I'll offer some ongoing as needed care for them, but my goal is for them to not really need me that much anymore. So I have to be able to continually attract new clients.
That's right.
And so my plan is to do that by reaching out to different gyms and coming and giving a presentation I'm going to do here, and offering some education to people, but then inviting them to work further with me as well.
That's awesome.
And I decided that there's lots of different people you could serve in this, but really who I want to serve are athletes. And
Yeah.
so that's my plan, is to kind of, and I haven't reached out too much yet because I've gotten this like initial excitement that's keeping me plenty busy. And as I'm
Sure.
still working
Right.
my other job, I
Yeah.
haven't had the time to really reach out too much.
Expand.
But that is going to be my goal, to continue this on in the future as I leave in the next 6 days. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
You brought up a point like that you wanted to educate people or whatever.
Mhm.
That made me think of your website, the blogs. I
Mhm.
really enjoyed the blogs on your website.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's meant to be, something people can come to and learn something, even if they don't choose to
Right.
come work with me. Like, I hope that there's something out there for
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
to.
So it's more than just like, hey, sign up for a visit. It's like,
Right.
hey, learn something on this website. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's good.
Exactly. And, and I think about, maybe in the future, there's all kinds of ideas I have, like, offering a lower cost option for like, okay, let's do a group thing where we can, teach in depth more of a component of one of these things. There's all kinds of things that these functional medicine doctors across the country are doing, all kinds of different
You can go
ideas.
a lot of different ways with it,
You
especially because
really can.
everyone can use it,
Yeah.
So that's,
You can be very creative with it,
Right.
I think, and come up with some great ideas.
and there's
so.
like, so much about it and we don't really know anything about it, Like we know, like I'm like, oh, that's a really good thing. I need to get into that, but then I'm like, I don't even know where to start. Like,
Right.
I'll just hit up Libby. And
Yeah,
then...
absolutely.
That's right. That's cool. So that's exciting. So you're changing your practice, going into functional medicine. You're going to come here in January.
Yep.
And talk to our group. And just clarification, we talk about athletes. I use the word all the time. Athlete is anybody that walks in our door.
Absolutely.
Right? Like the young lady we talked about this morning.
Yes.
She's in her 60s.
She's an
She's
athlete.
lost 60 pounds.
Yes.
She's an athlete.
Right.
That's the way we look at it, and that's the individuals that we want to work with.
Absolutely. Those are exactly the individuals that I'm looking to work with too. People might think like, oh, she works with like professional athletes and stuff like that. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to doing that, but that's not really who I'm
That's right.
targeting to work with. It's the athletes
It's
us,
like the general population that wants to improve their lives, right?
That's right.
Absolutely.
We talk about that when we bring new people in and go through our foundations class. Before they step foot on the floor and do any type of functional movement, we go through that continuum, that sickness, wellness, fitness continuum. We literally draw it out on the whiteboard and we talk about here's where most of the population is at, and they're in that sickness. Because they're home, they're sedentary, they're probably not eating right. We want to bring them from that to wellness and then eventually fitness. And that's the ultimate goal. But I tell them, if there's an athlete that comes in that, hey, I want to go to the pros in whatever that is, CrossFit Games or football or basketball, that's great. We're probably not going to get you there, though, right? We're going to offer you supplementation to your fitness, but you're going to have to spend way more time than we've got here in order to do that professionally, right? But if you just need to get off your couch and you need to lose some weight, and you need to start eating right, we're the place.
Absolutely.
This is the goal here is then we've got Maria Zenz coming in from a physical therapist. So how do we move properly? Got a little ache, little ouchie here? Great, let's get that taken care of. So now we're expanding. We're not just fitness.
Right.
We're here to help you when you leave here so you feel better, right? We want to do that with chiropractic and then functional medicine.
Absolutely.
And that's why I was so excited to talk to you originally. Like, that is the outlet that we're missing.
Yeah.
We want that MD to be involved in what we see every day. That way, when a patient says, hey, I'm just not feeling the greatest, and there's nothing that they can point to that hurts, it's that mental, it's that fatigue, it's that, guess what? We've got an avenue. Because before, it'd be like, well, if you go see your doctor, they're going to tell you, you need to sleep more, or, here's this medication.
Prozac.
Yeah, that's right. Anxiety. You got anxiety, which we all do, right?
Yeah.
In some levels, got anxiety. Yep, here's Prozac. Take that, and we'll see it. Keep doing what you're doing, though.
Right.
Well, I get anxiety about taking a pill, though.
Yeah, I know.
It's just
Like,
a nonstop cycle.
Right, exactly. It's not fixing anything.
Right.
It's just Band-Aid on it for sure. And, all drugs have side effects, right?
And I get every side effect of every drug. I don't know why, but I do.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's awful.
So we're excited to have that MD option.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So, the goal in the coming new years, you come to CrossFit or CrossFit Crave, it's not just here for an hour fitness. It's here to really, truly improve your overall health and
Mhm.
wellness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if that's physical therapy, got it. Chiropractic, working on it. MD, got it.
Hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
We can funnel all of that to the individuals that need it the most.
And then work
Absolutely.
hand in hand with that, like from what you guys say.
Yeah.
And then you're just like,
Yeah. Yeah, because
Dr.
what if-
Libby said this. I'm like, oh, so then we
Yeah.
know how to coach you better and
Mhm.
that's right.
can fix that aspect.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you're not going to get that at your traditional
No.
doctor. They're not going to make the point to say, hey, tell the coaches at CrossFit that, or yourself contacting us directly. Hey, I'm seeing one of your athletes.
Mhm.
This is what he or she needs to do more
Right.
of or avoid. That we just don't have that relationship.
Right. And you're not going to get what you're offering at your typical like gym either,
That's right.
I mean,
Mhm.
and
That's right.
so, CrossFit really transformed my life. And what I want to do now is transform,
Yeah.
I think some of my current conventional patients would say that I've really changed their lives, but I
Mhm.
mean, I don't feel like I really
Yeah.
have, I really want to be able to
Yeah.
work closely with people
Yeah.
and make
Mhm.
a difference,
Change that life long term.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
instead of short term.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Which is what I
awesome.
love. I mean, it seems like it's the CrossFit philosophy and the functional medicine philosophy just really marry together very nicely.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is not just a gym that you just come in, come to your hour class, leave, and then that's the end of it.
Right.
I mean, it's a community. It's all about whole wellness,
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
that's a
right.
good point.
Exactly.
The workout part is only a
Right.
part of it.
It's only
Only
a part of it.
it. Mhm.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
And I know we're going to extend, and do a couple more. Can you dive into when somebody says, well, okay, so why is her functional medicine practice different than going to a traditional
Mhm.
MD? And we won't dive into each one of those
Sure.
directly, but I know there's 2 or 3 things that you focus on
Yeah.
right up front.
Yes.
Say, these are the indicators of either sickness or wellness
Yes.
for you.
Yes.
And then we'll extend maybe another podcast to dive into what each one of those mean.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
So I do completely different testing than you would do at your regular doctor's office. And everybody's a little bit different, depends on what they're coming to me with. But I have 3 standard lab tests that I like to put people through that most conventional doctors would have never even heard of. I mean, they really wouldn't have. But I first of all do a saliva test. So none of it is blood testing. It's all other testing. So I do a saliva test and I test someone's adrenal glands. And your adrenal glands sit on top of your kidneys and they put out your stress hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is your basis for energy production. And stress affects cortisol. So when we live under chronic stress, and I think most of us do, just the demands of our life. I mean, like, God intended for us to be under acute stress and then relative calmness in between. So, but like we're living in this stressful world, feeling like we're being chased by a tiger all the time.
Right.
With like, gotta rush to this and rush to that, and don't forget this, and our bodies, that wears our bodies out, and it's the basis for fatigue, and it's the basis for achiness, and it's the basis for poor immunity. And so the first thing I do is I test that and I see where it's at. And then I correct it. And I correct it in a way that is retraining your brain to remember how it was supposed to handle that stress to begin with. And people feel so much better. Their immune system starts to get boosted up and their energy level starts to rise. And your body under that chronic stress is in this like catabolic state. I mean, it thinks you're in danger. So it's like storing
sure.
fat.
Starvation.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. So we try to reverse that whole cycle. And then I do some gut testing. And so this is so huge. Like, so our microbiome, the gut bacteria that, I remember I saw my daughter, she had it in her small intestine, not supposed to be there, but you have tons of bacteria living in your large intestine, and they are super important. So what lives there is really crucial to your health. And so we test it. We do a stool test, actually, and I see what's in there that's good and what's in there that's not so good. And what's in there that's not so good can be leading to inflammation, fatigue. It can be leading to skin rashes, headaches. All kinds of symptoms can be developed from that bad bacteria. So we test that and we kill off anything that's bad, and then we optimize what's good. And
How do you do that? Just by food? Like,
I do it generally with some supplements, so some natural stuff, and we blast it really hard for a short period of time.
is that like your probiotics and stuff, or is that?
that comes next. So probiotics are good bacteria. So we kill off the bad stuff first, then we replace the good stuff. And so, so I use some like combination herbs and things like that really to just kill off. And it depends what you've got in there. Everybody's a little bit different, but we get rid of anything that's bad. And then we optimize what's good, probiotics. And then we heal the gut lining a little bit too, because you need to have a intact gut lining to absorb all the good nutrients that you're eating. So there are people who are eating a really great diet, but they're not absorbing the nutrients from that diet optimally. So that leads to some vitamin deficiencies and things.
That's
like
terrible.
Isn't it terrible? I am like, I eat a lot of protein. Like I want to make sure I'm getting my protein in,
Yeah, that's right.
And when I did my test, it showed that I was like lacking protein. And I thought, this is impossible, but I was eating it, but I wasn't optimally absorbing it. And so I had to fix my gut lining so that I could optimally absorb it. It's pretty easy to do once you realize what the problem is. So that's what I do second. And then I do a third test. That's a urine test. And it looks at your metabolism. So lots of times, I mean, especially men and women my age, 40s, they start having a hard time losing weight. I mean, and they can shed some weight if they're pretty restrictive. But if they don't stick with that long term, they have a hard time keeping it off. And we test the metabolism to see what's not optimal in their metabolism. And oftentimes there's been something that's either deficient from a essential nutrient that they are needing that they are not either eating or absorbing in their diet, or some toxicity along the way that's developed in their system has kind of killed that off and made it not optimal. So we test the metabolism, we test the neurotransmitters in the brain through this urinary test. So anxiety is often from a neurotransmitter deficiency, and we test it. I mean, this is stuff that I didn't even know you could test in conventional medicine.
How does you do that with urine?
Yeah.
You're like, what?
It measures how your body is breaking it down.
Wow.
Absolutely. And you know what's, I mean, for years I've told patients in my conventional practice, someone would come in with, let's say, anxiety or depression. And some people are like, I'm like, you need Prozac, you need Zoloft. And they're like, okay, great, thanks. So they'll take it and they're fine. And it does help them. They feel better. But then there's some people who say, I don't want to take that. And I have to try to convince them to take it. And I would tell them, like, look, I wish there was a blood test I could order that would show me, hey, your serotonin is supposed to be 20 and yours is 5. So you need Prozac. And they would probably more willingly take it. But I told them, like, there's just no tests like that. Well, it turns out there is.
It's not even a blood test.
It's not even a blood test. It's just a urine test, and you can absolutely test it. So I test the neurotransmitters and fix them if they're not right.
How do you fix a neurotransmitter?
So they're made from amino acids, and amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, right? So we give the specific amino acid that you're lacking, and you might be eating it, but you might just need a higher amount of it than you're eating. And so like serotonin comes from tryptophan. That's one of the amino acids that there's only 20 amino acids, and you need them all. But so we just pinpoint it, and then we replace it, and people feel better. And what else does it test? It tests your liver toxicity. I mean, we're all exposed to toxins. I mean, it's unavoidable. The air we breathe is not clean. The food that we eat, I mean, they spray the crops with weed killers that then get into our diet. The products we put on our skin, if I lather the Bath and Body Works lotion on my arms before I come in here, on my legs, like that's, you read the back of that, what's in there. That's all stuff that my body has to then
absorb
and process
get
through
out,
my liver.
Get out somehow.
Exactly. And so there's some buildup of that can happen, and that can lead to damage of the neurotransmitters and the metabolic precursors and all of that. So the test shows me, if you're doing a good job of limiting that exposure, or you're doing a good job of processing it, it's not a big deal. But for some people it is. And so we're able to test all of that. So I go through all of that. So there's all kinds of stuff, and everybody's different. And, but once we pinpoint it and figure out what's going on, we can really fix it. And at the end, it's pretty transformational.
Because you have the knowledge from a patient perspective, you have the knowledge that you went through yourself, and you know kind of how to maintain at that point.
Absolutely. And all along the way, I mean, the other thing I work with the patients on the whole time is we work on lifestyle too. So, it's I have them tell me how they're doing in each of those 5 modifiable lifestyle factors. And if they give me a 10 out of 10 on something, I'm like, great, I'm going to leave you alone on that one.
Yeah,
But
that's right.
the ones,
Yeah.
and I actually write them down in the order that they rank them as far as worst to best, because I kind of tackle them in that approach. If they tell me like, I've got the diet thing down, I'm like, sweet, we don't have to do anything different with that. Keep doing what we're doing. But the ones that they're not a 10 out of 10 on, it's like, okay, let's work on these things a little bit. And, some patients have asked me like, are you going to make me drink, green smoothies all day long? And am I never going to be able to eat a, piece of pizza again? I'm like, no, we'll just meet you where you're at, and we'll together decide what steps we can take to move your health forward. It's not, like I think old doctor-patient relationships was like, I'm the dictator and you are the patient, and I tell you to do this, and you do it.
Well,
No
we
questions.
talked about that before, though. It's just like, like whatever the doctor says is just like,
oh, yeah, okay,
got
yes,
it, doc.
yes,
I'll
ma'am,
do that.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir, yes, ma'am,
Right.
and don't ask me any questions. This is just
I'm not even smart enough to ask you any questions, so let's see if that works.
Right, exactly. And so this is meant to be, it's like you and I together are going to partner, and we're going to try to create your best health. And I can't do it all for you, but I certainly can be your guide and help you, and I can be there for you, and together we can walk this path. And it's going to look different for each patient, because some are going to be able to do more things than others, but we just meet you where you're at and move it forward.
I imagine it's how far you want to get too. Like,
yeah.
Like you might not want
What
to
are
be
your
the
goals,
healthiest person
right?
ever, but you're just like, hey, this needs fixed, or
Need
like,
to feel a little better,
right. The
Right.
same thing with like people working out. Like, if they don't want to go super heavy,
Right.
then you don't have to. You know?
Right. Like you got to
So
remember.
just what are your goals? Not
Exactly. Not like self-imposing what my goals
right.
are.
We're
for
not
you.
all trying to be games athletes or like
Right.
Exactly.
That's
a great point.
First prescription of CrossFit. We're going to meet you where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to meet, us where the majority of the athletes that are already in here. That's not the goal.
Mm-hmm.
If today picking up the dry erase marker off the ground is it for you, then that's what we're going to start with.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we tell them in the intro classes. Today we're going to learn how to deadlift, and deadlift literally may be just bending over and picking a white PVC pipe off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's day one.
Yeah.
Tomorrow we may ask you to do that twice.
Right. Yeah.
And then put it in a shelf over your head. Push press.
Yeah. Right.
So we're
Right.
going to meet you where you're at, and that sounds like
Yeah.
what you're going to try to do.
Absolutely. And you got to remind yourself of that periodically, because sometimes I forget, and you think like, oh, this is what I think would be good for you. But, you go back to like, well, and I have them put down, like, what are your top 3 things that you'd like me to fix if we could, and so you got to remember to keep looking at that again and again and again, so I don't get sidetracked of what I think would be the best route for them, because everybody's a little bit different in what they're looking to achieve, for sure. And so you got to remember to listen to the patient, for sure.
So I have a quick question about what you said earlier with your daughter.
Yeah.
The SIBO.
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 Yeah.
So you fix that,
Mhm.
but then what do you do after that? Does she avoid something, or is it just done?
Yeah. So once, she's not super great with her diet now. Like we were kind of restrictive about what she was allowed to eat to begin
Mhm.
with, and that allowed us to kill off that bad bacteria. And now it's pretty much fixed, but she does notice if she goes off the deep end and eats really bad food for an extended period of time,
Right.
it'll kind of come back for her again.
Okay. So it does just come back.
It does kind of come back a little bit too.
Tenacious bad bacteria.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. But the goal there, she has the knowledge.
She
now,
does.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
And the family has the knowledge.
Yep.
That's the cool thing about
For sure.
functional
Yeah.
practice. Right?
Yeah.
We understand now what was
What was
causing the
wrong?
issue.
Yeah.
Right.
We have an idea of how to maintain.
Right.
So that's how your goal of, whether I'm working with somebody for 3, 6, or 9 months, that term is to
Mhm.
be able to understand how to fix it long term.
To see
Mhm.
autonomy.
I have the
right?
knowledge, I
Right.
have the background. I don't need your services.
Right.
Once I have that,
Yeah.
I'll be able to handle it all.
Right. And you
Right.
start feeling it again. You're just like, well,
Yeah.
I know what
Makes
to do
sense.
now.
I know what it is.
Makes
I was
sense.
screwing up. Now it's catching up to me. Like,
Exactly. Absolutely. And sometimes, something happens in someone's life. Like maybe it's like a really stressful thing happens, and
Yeah.
then that gets their stress response way
Mhm.
out of whack. And, we might need to revisit stuff
Sure.
again. But yeah, she's got the knowledge and she knows what to do. And,
Right.
she's a super independent kid. So I don't like micromanage what she's eating and stuff. She kind of does it on her own, but she'll say sometimes like, oh yeah, I really probably
shouldn't have done that.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
But her body is much more forgiving now that it's kind of like she can eat some bad food occasionally and be fine,
Mhm.
you know, because the underlying problem has
Right.
been pretty much solved. But she knows if she really
Gets off the wagon a little bit.
really
it's
gets off
gonna-
the wagon, it's going to come back and kind
Yep.
of get her again for sure.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. I mean, this is kind of exactly how I thought this would go. I know you have some finishing
Yep.
questions as we kind of close
As we
here.
finish.
And
Yeah.
our goal is to add a series, and I want
Yes.
to dive into each one of those three areas that
Absolutely.
you talked about going
Absolutely.
forward. So that'll be awesome. So
Yeah.
you had
So, yeah, a couple questions. We're
Sure.
trying to. I screwed up and forgot last week, but we're trying to ask these questions to all of our listeners.
Okay.
So, what's a few things that you do every day that positively impact your health?
Okay, that's a good question. Self-care. Okay, that's like my big thing right now. You know, you fly in an airplane and they talk about, you know, if we lose cabin pressure and the oxygen masks fall, put yours on first, then put it on
And then
your
so you
small
can-
children,
Mhm.
right? And I think to be the person I want to be, I need to invest in myself a little bit. And so I start almost every morning with something for myself. So sometimes it's CrossFit. You know, first thing in the morning, my husband and I go together to CrossFit. But when it's not CrossFit, I read some sort of a chapter of a book that I'm reading, and it's usually something motivational, self-help type of a book. So like I read a chapter this morning of a book that I'm reading, and I do some meditation too, which is really like just a calming thing. Just kind of gets my mind ready for the day.
Mhm.
And when I go to CrossFit, my husband and I usually listen to a book on tape on our way there
Oh,
and
cool.
back, you know, so we
Yeah.
try to pick something that we are both sort of interested in, because he's really into doing some of this too. So I think that's vitally important. And sometimes when I get really busy, I think, oh, I don't have time for that. I'm just going to like skip that part and
Mm.
rush out the to-do list. But
It always feels worse. Every
It
time you
always
skip it, you're
feels
just like,
worse.
why didn't I? Like, why?
I know it really,
Mhm.
really does. And so I try to make that a huge priority. And I'm getting a lot better at it because I'm seeing the results. I mean, it just really gets me in the right mindset for the
Nice.
tackling the day. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Something you know you should do to positively impact your health, but you don't.
That's a really good one. I would say diet's the hardest one for me. You know, I know what I should eat, and I know I feel fabulous when I do what I'm supposed to do, and I know I don't feel as good when I don't do what I'm supposed to do. But you know, out of all those modifiable factors, that's the one I probably struggle with the
Mhm.
most. And so I would say sticking to the diet always, and not always, but I think if I can stick to it 80 to 90% of the time, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah.
But it feels like right now, it's like I'm doing pretty good breakfast and lunch, and then it kind of falls off the rail the rest of the day. It's
I did
like-
good twice. I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. You need to get that back in
Right.
check for
that's my
sure.
50%.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Any tips for someone wanting to get into functional medicine?
Absolutely.
And you might not, because you have to do like a lot of schooling and stuff, you know? But
Yeah,
I don't know if
it's
there's-
interesting. So not everybody in functional medicine is a doctor. You know, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people that are in functional medicine are not MDs. And so I think that's what's made my practice get kind of busy pretty quickly, is that having the MD and the functional medicine together is like,
it's an obvious choice when you're looking for a
I-
functional medicine
I
person.
think so. I think that's a little bit rarer. A lot of functional medicine doctors are chiropractors and or other health professionals. I mean, I think just getting out there and learning, you know,
Mhm.
and working with other people. I mean, there's so many podcasts out there right now from functional medicine doctors. So just soaking it all up and learning. And, you know, there's really no like specific schooling that you have to go to be functional medicine. Like you could probably listen to a few podcasts and then say, I'm a functional medicine person and start your business. And
Cool. I was trying to figure out what to do with my career, so thank you.
Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, maybe
Just
in a
gonna
couple
listen
of
to a
months you could
podcast
be,
quick.
yeah. So there's not like and that probably will change, I think, with
Oh,
time.
yeah, I think so.
But, you know, so it's kind of a newer field, and there's not like one specific thing that you have to do. There's a whole bunch of different training programs out there,
Mhm.
and I've decided to go through 2 of them, but I love learning so much. I'll probably continue doing more because I just love learning this stuff. But, so just getting out there and starting with podcasts and stuff. I mean, there's so many good ones out there. Mark Hyman, he's one of the big gurus from the Cleveland Clinic. I was listening to his podcast on the way here. He's got a really good one about gut health is what I was listening to. And it's just,
What's his last name?
Hyman, Hyman. He's at the Cleveland Clinic. And there's a few founding people. He founded the Institute of Functional Medicine through the Cleveland Clinic.
Okay, cool.
And that is the training program that I've gone through. And I'm on their website. I was telling you I was on their website. He's the kind of the head of that institute there. And he's got a lot of great stuff out there.
Cool. So this is the last question. Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Oh, wow. Okay, say that one more time.
Say that one more time.
Horse-sized duck.
So a giant duck or 100 duck-sized horses.
100.
There's a lot riding on this question. No pressure, but
Yes.
my faith in you might diminish.
Wow. Gosh. This is hard. I mean, gosh, I'm thinking maybe just have to go with the big one. You know?
Oh, no.
Yeah, so that's what I would go with. Just one.
I mean, it seems overwhelming, but man, if 100 of them, they're coming at you from all different directions.
You climb up a tree.
Yeah, but that's not really
The
fighting them.
horse-sized duck.
That's
If a horse-sized duck is flying at you,
yeah,
I
but
don't know.
I mean, that's not really fighting them. That's kind of running from it, you know.
Oh,
Unless I have a rock.
That's a
Ah.
great.
So you got to grab the rock.
That's
and
that's
then climb
that
the
says a
tree.
lot of. I just run from my problems. I don't.
Yes, yes.
Oh, CJ.
Ah,
We could have
So
another
this is
you're-
a
podcast on
therapy
that.
session.
So you're the 100 and you're the one.
That's right. I'm
Okay.
the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would rather take on one.
Yeah. I mean, my initial gut was the 100 really, but then the more I thought about it, I thought, you know what? Like,
Dude, I'm not like CJ. I attack my problems. I don't let them overrun me.
yeah.
I'm
yeah.
just hiding in a tree, just waiting till it falls over and I die.
That's right.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's great.
It could be a long time, you know. I don't
Yeah.
know how long they're going to wait for you down
I
there.
know.
you
I'm
know?
that guy that waits for retirement to start living my life.
And I decided I'm not going to
And
do
you're
that
like, no
anymore.
way. I'll face
But you
that
know
thing head
what?
on.
It's because you're young. Like I kind of love being mid 40s. I really
Yeah.
do. You know, it's just the 20-year-old me couldn't have done this. And I truly believe everything that's happened in my life kind of brought me to the point that I'm at right now. Like,
Right.
you know, 25-year-old Libby couldn't have done what I'm
Mhm.
wanting to do now.
Yeah.
I needed the maturity, I needed the self-growth, but I needed the education and the experience.
Life lessons.
Yeah. And so I don't think anything has been a mistake up till this point.
That's
Like it's
awesome.
all been
That's a great way to
it's-
live.
Yeah. But you don't have enough life experiences.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
true.
That'll come.
Yeah. And it's not your fault. I mean, you're doing
Yeah.
awesome for your
Yeah.
age, you
Yeah,
know, but
thanks.
just wait 20 years, like you'll have 20 more years experience, you
Right.
know?
That's right.
Yeah, true.
And
Then I'll take on the
Yeah.
horse-sized
The
duck.
one.
exactly. That's
That's great.
exactly right.
Awesome. Well, that's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Oh,
Libby, thank you.
Yeah, we
Where
really
do
appreciate you.
Where do we find you? I know you're going to be here. I think it's January 18th. I have to
Yeah.
look at the calendar.
yes.
And that's open to anyone that wants to come and set through.
Absolutely. I will
your-
share my story and some tips for some things that you can do. So
Yep.
I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, you can find me on my website too, www.northsidefunctionalmedicine.com. And I've got lots of great information on my website, a blog, and just all kinds of stuff on there. So hopefully that will be educational. If you are interested in working with me, there is a way to apply for a free session. I do them on the phone for an hour, and I do it for free for a couple of reasons, just to see if you're a good fit for me and if I'm a good fit for you. So there's no obligation for that. And so if you're interested, click that button and sign on up. And I've also got a couple of things on the website too, like there's a fatigue guide and a guide to hormonal health on there that you can download for free. And that gets you on my email list actually too, to get to my
good.
newsletter. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
should have clicked it.
Yeah.
That's
CJ
okay. You can
CJ's
give
been
it to me
reading them.
before you leave and I'll
Yeah.
put you on my
Yeah.
newsletter
Yes.
list. Yes.
Awesome. That's so cool. Yeah. And I'm excited. I've already had that hour conversation with
Yes.
you. That was a couple of Saturdays ago.
Yes.
And it was literally just like this.
Yeah.
It was a conversation.
Right.
And I got off the phone. I'm like, this is going to be so awesome.
Oh,
You know
I'm
what I mean? It
excited
was
too.
like it's the first time you're able to say some of the things you really feel, like the anxiety.
Mhm.
I got it. The problems, from at work and the stress, and it's like, yep, all on his shoulders.
Yep.
But any given day you walk in, it's like, oh, Matt's smiling.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
smiling.
Are you this
But
happy
you
all the
have
time,
no
Matt?
idea.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah,
We're good
so
at
that's
hiding
cool.
it, aren't we?
Oh, yeah,
You
we are.
know?
Yep.
And it's taken a toll on us. I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's people who like break apart pretty easily. But then there's those of us who don't, you know, we just hold it all together and it's still affecting us, but we're
Oh, yeah.
it's almost affecting us more because
Yeah.
if you just like break
Yeah.
down and get it all out, it's all out,
That's
right.
right?
That's right.
But there's
Yeah.
those of us who just were like, I'm
People
not,
just ask you, like, how are you happy all the time?
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I'm not.
yeah, I'm really good at making it,
Yeah,
right?
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Well-
for the phone call,
Yeah.
do you just call? Is there questions you go through? Or is
Yeah,
there,
so there's
do
like a
people
little
have to be prepared to
application.
know something?
Yeah, like so if you click that button, it goes to this little application page and asks a few little questions,
Okay.
and then it sends me an email, and then I confirm the appointment. I give them my phone number and just say, hey, yeah, great, I'm looking forward to talking to you. Please call me at this number at the time of your appointment, and then they call me and we sit down and
Boom.
chat. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice,
it's super
cool.
easy.
Yeah.
And then when patients do become my patients, so I do see people all over the state of Ohio. You don't have to live in Springfield to see me.
Right.
And once they've been accepted as a patient, we've decided to work together. We can do the visits either on the phone, we can do it through Zoom, so like a telemedicine portal,
Yeah.
or they can come to my home office and see me there too. And they can choose whatever is easiest for them. And it can be different every time too. So like I have some people who, when we have a lab to go over, they like to come to my home because we can sit down and really go over it. And if they're not
Sure.
that far away, it's easy. But even if we do it over the phone, I email them their labs ahead of time. And then I tell them to like, hey, have those papers ready when we get on the phone and I'll explain to you exactly what that
Yeah.
means. And so
Yeah.
it's really easy to do even if you don't live right down the
In
road from me in
Springfield, right.
Springfield. Yeah,
Yeah. I
absolutely.
think the cool thing about it, and I hope, in the future this happens. Like we have, Maria here. She spends a day now, 2 days here in our facility seeing patients. Like she just had a patient come in that I've never seen before.
Mhm.
Right? He's not a CrossFitter. He's not one of our athletes,
Mhm.
but he's here getting better, right? Moving better. And
Yeah.
I would hope that as your practice grows in CrossFit boxes around the state of Ohio, especially, you have that opportunity to say, hey, we're going to literally, when we build, we're going to have a room, and that room is going to be set aside. Maria's going to have a room. We're going to have chiropractic. I'd love to be able to say, hey, this is where Dr. Libby will see patients, and maybe it's only used once a month.
Yeah.
And that's okay, but she's seeing those local patients here in the Mercer County area that
Yes.
she has. And then you can come down, catch a workout,
Yeah.
sit down, and go over things with your doctor.
Absolutely.
And that's,
That would be
I think
awesome.
that's the future of what we would like to build here
Mhm.
at CrossFit Crave. So I'm
I would
excited for
love
that.
to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get my husband like back this way. He said to me, I think I told you,
Yeah.
he said, we lived in Springfield because both of our jobs were in Springfield. And he's like, and now like neither one of our jobs are in Springfield. He's working in Columbus now. And now I'm doing this is mobile.
Yeah.
I can do this anywhere, right?
That's right. And that's the goal. Even if it's just once a month or once every other month, it's a place you can come to, if you want that one-on-one interaction, great. I'm going to be in that area. Let's schedule your hour session during this time.
Absolutely. That'd be super cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks for partnering with me. I love
Yeah.
it.
No, we're excited.
No,
for the
yeah, thank
future.
you.
And I'm signed up. I start in January.
Yes. I'm looking forward
So,
to it. It'd be awesome.
It's going to be fun. Yeah, so it'll be a cool journey. And this is, one of multiple podcasts we want to have with yourself, just kind of covering, those three specific areas and
Yes.
why it's important to functional health.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Looking
Well,
forward to
thank
it.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a
Yeah.
lot.
Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Yeah,
Oh.
good stuff.
O2s.
Yeah,
Oh,
O2. We got a shout
We
out
got
to Dave.
Yeah, Dave.
We're unsponsored by Dave,
Yeah,
but
but
this is like
he
an
makes a
IV
good
and
drink.
But we
everything
still
else.
like him, huh?
yeah,
Yeah,
we
still
still
And we
have
all picked the
great
same
love for Dave.
flavor, right?
Yeah,
Oh my
we
gosh.
did.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, awesome.
perfect.
Well,
Thanks,
Great
Dave.
stuff.
Thanks, Libby.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Libby. Dr.
Yes.
Libby.
Oh
Sorry.
yeah,
Dr.
no,
Libby.
Gosh
Libby's
darn
good.
it.
Libby is good.
Yeah.
Show some respect, CJ. Jeez.
That's right. Awesome.
Cool.
All right, good stuff. Thank you.
Thank
Sweet.
you. Thank you.